Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is so bittersweet because it's our last success series for 2021. I mean, look how the time just flew by. I
Yes.
just can't believe that, this is our last one for the year, but, 2022 is going to be very exciting. So, welcome to Meaningful Connections Through Networking. And we have an amazing show. For those of you that, as soon as I said networking, you broke out into a sweat or hives, this show is to help you. For those of you, this is your strong suit. We want you to share. So whether it's something that you dread or whether it's something that you embrace, we want to hear from you. And how you're going to do that is just like you're doing now through chat. Just like Tara said, just make sure that in the two-part, what does it say, Tara? Host and panelist?
It says all panelists and attendees or to everyone, depending on your Zoom updates.
Great. So we want to make sure that we are hearing from you guys. So here's what we're going to talk about in this session. We're going to talk about some strategies to help you create those long-lasting, meaningful connections. And we're going to talk about, okay, if networking is not your strong suit, we're going to come up and help you come up with some strategies to overcome those networking challenges. So Nathan, I already know as soon as I said networking, I immediately felt my face get red. And I think I'm sweating through this jacket right now. So when it comes to networking, or is it something that you embrace or do you find it challenging?
I find networking very challenging. Well, it's easy sometimes if I can connect to someone, but a lot of times it's challenging. I get the worst anxiety because I'm not the best. I'm one of those awkward people when it comes to having conversations. So networking isn't my strong suit. So I'm glad we're having this so everyone can share their tools if they're pros at it.
Right. So what comes to mind when you think of networking? So when I say, networking, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Well, as soon as you said it, I thought anxiety. I need to run because I don't like networking. To be completely honest, I try my best to, like, it's something that I can do, but I have to be in the mood for it. Going back to being an introvert, like I have to be prepared. I have to be recharged to network.
I think the first thing that comes to mind when I think of networking, and every time I say it, I feel myself getting hotter and hotter. So the first thing that comes to mind is just fear. Mm-hmm. I it's hard to believe, but I'm an introvert extrovert. And so when someone says, how you go to a meeting for the first time and they're like, all right, we're going to do a icebreaker. So what I want you to do is I want you to introduce yourself to one person and, find out a little something about them. Guess where I am? I immediately said, okay, excuse me for a second. And I go hide in the bathroom. And I time it to see, because I'm like, what do I say? What do I'm not the type to approach someone or, initiate the conversation. So Tara, what do you have in chat right now? What comes to mind when they think of networking?
Yeah, so a good mix of people. A few don't like it. Definitely a few say that they are terrible at small talk. Rhonda says social bug. Keegan says building long-lasting relationships. And that's really it. A lot of people are saying talking to strangers is really what comes to mind. Mm-hmm. Something LeClaire said that interests me, says that struggles with it because she thinks it seems insincere all the time, like this dance that you're doing with ulterior motives.
Ooh. That's interesting. I kind of feel that way as well. Tara, is networking something that you're good at?
I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I'll come on camera for this one. I love networking, but not in the traditional sense of I want to get to know other people for work-related things. I just really am a big extrovert. I like talking to people. I like getting to know what others' interests are. I like learning about other people's jobs. And really, For me, it's just connection. It's connection
Mhm.
with others who enjoy, hopefully, their work. And that's what networking is to me, to be with people who enjoy their job and want to share with others what they do. And I especially like networking with people in our field because it's different all over the place. So it's cool to meet other people from training.
Right. And
Sure.
it to me, I guess it's when you say networking or when it's forced upon me, I think that's when I get nervous.
Mhm.
But if you think about, you standing somewhere and, at a function and you're casually having a conversation, getting to know that person, that's kind of networking. You just don't realize that that's what it is because you're genuinely just having that conversation.
Right.
So
Right.
if it's not your strong suit, then you immediately go to all the negative things that are
Mhm.
associated with it. But you know why do you think, Nathan, networking is important?
For me, once I put myself out there and networked, I made some valuable connections. Like I've met people who have helped me in my career, shared tools and resources with me, and some lifelong friends. So I wouldn't be where I am if I wouldn't have made those connections and put myself out there and actually got to know and have those conversations with people. What about for
Right.
you?
Right. I think it's, I really am passionate about learning new things.
Hmm.
And I think that networking helps you, identify or learn about what are the new trends in your field or give you a different perspective on new ideas and, you know, things of that nature. And, building that connection with
Hmm.
that person. And so, I, there are some great benefits in regards to, networking. Tara, what do you have in chat?
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation about why networking can be good when it happens naturally. Seth mentions that introverts can't just choose to be a people person, and it's not that simple. And so that's part of the conversation. Timothy says, start just by being an active listener. And people, I saw up here earlier, Karen says she always asks about the person if they don't know them. So let them feel like you're interested in them. And usually it makes the conversation a little bit easier. So
Hmm.
it's important to get to know others. Let's see. Sorry, I'm reading new ones. They're coming in as we're talking. Krista says their professional organization has training and conferencing that forces them to network, and it can be hard. Um, but Claire says it's important because it's important to help you grow in your knowledge.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I agree that when it's forced, I think when it's forced, that's when I start to have anxiety and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't really want to do this. And that's when I go hide. But it's something that I think that when it's natural, because I don't want people to think that, I'm trying to get to know them because I want something,
Hmm.
then it becomes, ugh, I don't, I don't even have a word. Ugh, it's not a word, but
Right.
it's, I want it to be genuine.
Yeah, and that raises a good point because actually before I worked here, I was in sales and we had to network. They would tell us we had to actively network. So we would go in and make people talk about whatever, and our supervision told us not really to care. So it's like we just had to get people talking so to make them feel valued so that we could get like a payment from them. And
Mhm.
it kind of messed me up with networking because I
Mhm.
really like to be genuine. I didn't want to, I don't want to network just so I can make a sale. I want to network people because I value them. So I kind of tricked myself into calling it something else, just being social. I don't like that word networking because it kind of flips that switch like, okay, I'm being fake. And I
Hmm.
don't like it.
You know what, Nathan? I never thought about that. I'm wondering if that, I used to be in sales too, and I wonder if that's where, you know, my fear of networking came from. Look at you being Dr. Phil and making me do some inner soul searching to find out that root cause. But, everything that, Tara talked about was those, where they talked about, active listening, and
Mhm.
those are all those networking strategies, some things that you can do to, eliminate that fear. And I think that it's not something that you can just do overnight. I think that it's something that you have to practice,
Mhm.
in order for you to get better at it. And so,
Yeah.
I think the first step is definitely, creating those meaningful connections. And so what do
Mhm.
you think are some ways to create meaningful connections? What are some things that you do, Nathan?
So first off, I see in the comments a lot of people are talking about being an introvert. It's kind of hard to just go out there and network. I do recommend something that I do is I recharge before any type of networking event. So if I have like up to 10 minutes, I'll just play my favorite song, do something that I like just to kind of ease my mind. And that helps. And whenever I'm making those connections, something I do is ask questions. Like I'll ask a question, and once I get a bite and someone's showing interest, I'll chime in and stuff, but I'll let the other person I'm talking to talk. Because I realize that people love to talk about themselves.
Mhm.
And me being an introvert, like have at it. I'm interested and just talk about yourself. I'm here to listen.
Right. I wonder if you know that if that's an easy opener when we ask questions, because here in the South, the first thing is we're
Mhm.
like, okay, what's your name? All right, where are you
Yeah.
from? Who's your mom and them? We automatically go to those questions, but that's because we genuinely want to know. And
Mhm.
so I think I saw a comment in there about being genuine when you're asking those questions, and I know Tara read a comment in regards to actively listening, showing that interest. Because if you ask a question about them and they start to answer the question and you are just, looking around,
Mhm.
then that makes them feel like what they're saying is not important.
Yeah.
And, it's important that when you do ask those questions that that your boundaries. You don't, ask those too personal questions.
Mhm. I
Tara,
agree.
what are you getting in chat?
Actually, so a little further back, just to share with those who are a little uncomfortable just going into the networking situation in the first place. Something that Krista shared says she finds it helpful to have a network buddy.
Mhm.
So have another person with them to help ease the anxiety of going into the situation. So that's a pretty great idea. See if you can get somebody to come with you, somebody that you know. It's a great
Mhm.
idea. And then as far as some ways to make meaningful connections, create those. Keegan says, start a genuine conversation and it'll fall
Mhm.
into place. It doesn't
Mhm,
always have to start with business.
mhm,
Susan says, be vulnerable and share something about yourself. So maybe, just be the one to jump the gun first and share something. And hopefully that'll open it up for them to want to share about themselves.
mhm.
And a lot of really good stuff. Something that I find just because, like I said, I actually enjoy networking. I like to find a common interest first, whether it's about work or not at all. I mean, I like to talk about football and things that I can kind of gauge around and see if we can find a common interest to start that conversation off.
Mhm.
That's a good one, Tara. And I didn't want to brag on you, but you are great at networking.
Yes.
You
Yes.
and everybody's talking about find a buddy. Guess who my buddy? She doesn't know it yet, but guess who my buddy is? you
Oh,
you were the only applicant, Tara, and so I am definitely going to use you.
I appreciate that.
One other recommendation, that they said in regards to creating those connections and those networking strategies is, starting off small, starting off with your circle, within your circle, like, your friends or your coworkers. So, Nathan, what networking opportunities are you currently taking advantage of right now?
Definitely my coworkers. And it didn't start more until like we started working remotely because I needed help with certain things. And like when you're working remotely, you don't see these people every day. So I had to reach out and start those conversations. But I enjoyed it. And I actually learned new skills. I learned how to do certain things. And I really enjoy networking. And also, I learned that I reach out to some of my alumni members from school. We recently had homecoming, and that was nice catching up. I even met some people who actually work for the state. So that was nice having those mutual connections and things like that.
All right. I mean, when I think of networking opportunities, I thought about this question and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm even taking advantage of any opportunities. I mean, I'm thinking sending them a little request to connect on LinkedIn is networking. I don't know if that really is, but that's in my mind. I'm like, oh, a networking notch. So, Tara, what are you getting in chat?
So first, to answer your question, yes, Kim, reaching out to people on LinkedIn and just sending a request is a great start to networking. If you're not someone who loves it, I'll tell you, LinkedIn is where I've met some great connections. But I've got some good stories in chat. So Keegan says part of the SOI, Sphere of Influence. Never heard of it, but it sounds really cool. This fun story from Blake. So Blake says they went to the Society of American an archivist conference. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that. He's an introvert or an extrovert, or introvert extrovert, depending on the day. Says one day at this conference, they wore yellow pants and a person stopped to say they liked his pants. And then at another conference, they saw the person stop to say hello. And then at a different conference, they had a friend with them who walked around saying, hey, tell this person about your genealogy. So something about yellow pants and having that friend around, it works. Maybe wear something bold next time and see if you get any attention.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. Keegan also says, "Oh, it's a real estate term." Thank you. I'm not in real estate, so I would not have known that. Timothy says, okay, don't get in a hurry. So networking is like relationships. They take time and can produce much fruit after you are recognized as being sincere. And I definitely agree. So I'll tell you, I don't go into networking situations with the thought of what can these people do for me. My thought is, what connections can I create? And then if something comes out of it later on down the road, that's really cool. But that's not the goal going into it. I'll tell you guys, if you are looking for opportunities, look for any kinds of organizations in your area that have to do with what you do regularly or what you enjoy. So I am actually this coming year serving on the board for a local talent development chapter, which is this past week, we actually had a conference for it for all the chapter leaders. And when I tell you, I got like 60 new LinkedIn connections over the week. It was a great way to get connected with those who work in the same field as we do, which was really cool. Claire says she's new to state employment officially. So this series is a lot of her networking. Hey, thank you for coming here and for using this as an opportunity to meet others and learn more about the state. I'm with you. I'm still technically kind of new to the state too. So that's a big one. I learn a lot from you guys.
Thank you, Claire. And look us up. You can send us a request. If that just shows how old I am. Is it a request? I don't remember how it is on LinkedIn. But once you start with your circle of friends, I think that it'll help you work on, if this is one of your areas of enrichment, is initiating that conversation. How do you initiate that conversation with new people? And this is something that one of my areas of enrichment. So Nathan, how do you initiate conversations with new people? What do you do?
I have this saying, I usually ask people, hey, how's it going? But you know how whenever you ask somebody, how are you? And you just wait for a generic response. Like I ask, hey, how's it going? And I wait for a longer response. And if they give me something small, like, oh, it's going, be like, tell me more. Like I try to drag that out a little bit more. And I found that helped me a lot. Just being a little bit more genuine and wanting a better answer, because people don't expect you to want a full sentence answer when you ask questions like that. So that helped me a lot.
Right. And when you're asking those questions, ask those open-ended questions, to draw out that information that, you're looking for.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I read is about, trying to see how you can lend a helping hand to someone, but just make sure that it's genuine. Like, I definitely, I think, like you said earlier, I definitely don't go and look to see what someone can do for me. but
Mm.
I am a helper. So, if I could be of service to anyone, I make sure that, I follow through on what I say.
Mhm.
So I don't have any advice in regards to initiating a conversation. That is my area of growth. But if I don't think about it in networking, I do ask, we'll have a conversation at a coffee pot. How's your day going?
Mhm.
It's going good. All right. Did you do anything interesting this weekend? And it's not me, trying to pry or trying to network. It's just me getting to know that person,
Mhm.
especially if I see them every day, and just make sure that I see it in there. Timothy said, listen to them and be an
Yeah.
active listener. And that is
Mhm.
definitely the key.
Mhm.
Sarah, what else are you getting in chat right now?
So something that Krista said, a few moments ago said, you need to make sure your social battery is charged and high, and it makes it easier to network, especially for introverts.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
that means knowing how to fill your social battery. For me, as an extrovert, my social battery is filled by being around people. But those of you that are introverts, you might need some good preparative time alone before you go into these situations. So make
Mhm.
sure you know that, and it'll help you by the time you get into these situations. Something that I really, really liked, an idea about how to initiate that conversation. Jared says, ask them about their thoughts on the event you're attending,
Mhm.
something that they can easily relate to, and hopefully out of that conversation spark something else and you can continue it from there.
Mm.
Or maybe ask them why they're attending. Timothy also says people love to tell you about themselves, whether they know or admit it or not.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So Christy, a lot of you guys know Christy. She says she likes going into breakouts and groups with people and asking what their issues are this week. Talk about what people need help with, or just a place for them to be able to vent for a little bit, get them talking.
These are some great ideas. I'm definitely gonna have to take some of this advice. It's so because starting that conversation, my heart starts beating in my chest and I start to sweat, and I'm like, oh hi, how are you? Nope, that's not true. I don't even approach anyone. I wait for them. I'm the introvert in the corner watching everybody have fun, waiting on someone to ask me my name. And I think, one of the things, that we talked about when we said, figuring out, you know, um, how you can help people, it's also important for you to make sure that once you do figure out if you can help them in any way, or even after you've made that connection, for you to follow up.
Mhm.
So Nathan, what's one way that you follow up after you meet someone?
My go-to is email. So a colleague of mine said that people won't always remember exactly what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Mm,
So if I meet somebody and we have a genuine conversation about something and we exchange information, I'll send them an email just letting them know that it was nice for us to talk. I really enjoyed it, and I'll reach out and say, hey, if you need anything, contact me. I'll keep in touch. Like I try to let them know that your conversation was impactful. It was meaningful to me.
right. I think one way that I follow up after I meet someone is, I think I'm like, oh, are you on LinkedIn? And then, I'll make that connection, and then I'll send them a message that, it was nice to meet you.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed our conversation, or something to that fact.
Mhm.
So what about you, Tara, my networking guru? What's one way that you follow up after you meet someone?
Yeah, I'm with Nathan. I like a good email. Also, really just LinkedIn is a great place. Or if you find that the person that you were networking with, if it was, someone that you may have just been building a connection with a friend and you want to reach out to those other social media sites that you may use, just a quick direct message, a DM as we call it, and just say, hey, I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm glad to connect with you. Would love to reach out. And if you need anything, let me know. And
Mhm.
basically just try to continue that conversation a little bit, or at least let them know that I'm still there anytime that they would like to.
Mm.
Mhm.
So some good stuff in the chat as well. Mary shares an app that I have not heard of, but something you may want to look into. She says she's an introvert, so she's been trying to, in quotes, get out there by using an app called Clubhouse. So it lets you chat with strangers or maybe people you know, usually some sort of topic for people to discuss. So it gives you a way to break that ice. And she said it's just a nice way to feel like you have something to talk about already. So pretty cool idea there. Let's see. Keegan says Keegan says they'll Skype them to death. Yep. Diana says, just to ask a simple question, how can I help further? Keegan says if they're state workers. So yeah, just keep requesting those meetings. Email, text, and yeah, it's just starting off by small talk. Mm-hmm. So some good ideas in here, you guys, for just making sure to check in. Really, that's the biggest thing. Follow up with maybe some kind of nugget about what you talked about in the past and check in on them.
Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that you said, find a little nugget, because that's what I try to do. I try to remember something about our conversation. Mm-hmm. If you're telling me, hey, as a matter of fact, I'm going on vacation next week, I'm going skiing. Next time I talk to you, I'm going to say, hey, how was that trip? I try to remember something. And I think that helps create those meaningful connections. Mm-hmm. Now, earlier when we talked about networking, we talked about, okay, what comes to mind? And some of us, we have those challenges when it comes to networking. And so, I want us to be vulnerable and talk about, all right, what are some of our challenges when it comes to networking? And so Nathan, what's some of the challenges you face with networking?
Okay, so if I have a trouble connecting with the information, if I can't find a sweet spot of networking with someone, I tend to tune out. And it's not purposely, it's just that I don't know how to connect to the information. Mm. So I have a story. A few weeks ago, I went to a restaurant and there was this guy sitting next to me and he kept talking to me about NASCAR. And instead of saying, sir, could you explain more? I really didn't want to go through all that because my social battery was drained. I'm an introvert. I was just like, oh, nice. That's a fast car. Like I was just saying the basic things, but I guess it came out that I wasn't interested, and that's where I have a problem at. It got so bad, I guess, my face. The guy got up and he was like, nice bothering you. And he moved around to the other seat. And I felt kind of bad, but I really didn't know how to connect. Like I don't know, maybe I should have said, could you tell me more or something like that? Just showed some type of interest. And I find that always happens at events. If I can't find a mutual connection or any type of point, I just snap out of it and tune myself out of it.
Okay. All right. I think that's an interesting story, Nathan. And I think if it was me, I don't know how that conversation would go. I don't mind. I'm not bad. I struggle with initiating the conversation and closing it. I don't struggle with having the conversation, because I probably would say, okay, well, that's interesting. I really don't know that much about NASCAR, except that Lightning McQueen is really good. Like, I'm pretty sure he would be like, what are you talking about?
Right.
So, I would, ask him questions about it to learn more about it, because like I said, I like learning new things. So, I would probably ask more about it, but I guess, I don't know how that would go.
It just, to me, it depends on my social battery. I see comments saying, sorry, sir, I'm not interested. But it's just times when introverts can understand, like times you just don't feel like interacting. And I try to be nice because interacting with someone, that's a simple way to network, but sometimes it's hard.
Yeah. So Tara, what are you getting in chat?
Good conversation here about the introvert versus extrovert stuff. Definitely something Michelle said was she's halfway confident at networking, great listener, but not so good about talking about herself in return. So that can be not an issue. It can be a challenge to face. If you don't know what to share about yourself, yeah, I understand how that can be a problem. And honestly, me, someone who loves networking, I feel the same way quite a bit. It's like, oh, what do I share? Do I share enough? Did I overshare? Oversharing is a problem for me. let's see, quite a bit. Let's see, everybody's joking about the NASCAR, saying, would just say, sorry, I don't watch NASCAR, but definitely, Claire says it can help to find a very specific question to ask, like what kind of fuel do they use?
Right.
Just something to, get that conversation in there.
Right.
Let's see, what else? There's so many. Okay, so Blake says they work in a library of archives, and sometimes at lunch you just need a break from talking. They had a colleague make a comment, and when they responded, and then they responded and went back to eating, felt bad for not talking, but needed a break. And that is a great point. Sometimes if networking is overwhelming for you, there's nothing wrong with you for that. I do have to point that out there. It's okay if social situations are not at your strong suit, but take that time you need to have a break, remove yourself from the situation, recharge your battery, and come back. There are still ways to make wonderful meaning connections otherwise, without, putting yourself in a really stressful situation.
Right.
Something Krista shared says at her current agency, a lot of employees are not neurotypical. So a little bit of challenge there for them not being able to network, for not being able to read social or conversational cues. That's a great challenge, and that you recognize that.
Right. Well, with the networking challenges, we identified some of the top ones. And the first one is, okay, I don't like socializing. It's not something that I enjoy doing. So for those of you that don't like socializing, and Nathan, are you one of those? Do you like socializing? Is it something that you're like, I don't mind doing?
I don't mind doing it. I don't mind those connections. Like I really do enjoy getting to know new people. And I know I can come off as reserved, but once I get to know someone, I've made some great friends just by socializing. I just have to talk myself into it.
Right. And for those of you, if you don't like socializing, what is it that you don't enjoy about socializing? What is one thing that you don't enjoy about socializing? And I would say I don't mind the socializing aspect of it. I don't mind getting to know people. It's just, again, like I said, that initiating that conversation and closing that conversation. And maybe it's, for some, it's knowing what to talk about. Knowing what to talk about, or even like you said, maybe finding that connection or that common interest. So Tara, I know you don't, or maybe you do. Do you have any challenges in regards to networking? Because I know you said you love socializing.
I do. And to be honest, yeah, I do. I am an extreme extrovert, and I am still with you guys there, where sometimes your social battery, you just don't have the energy for it. And as much as I love people and I really do enjoy networking, I have moments where I also don't know what to say. And I also just don't have the energy to learn about someone new. Even if I want to, sometimes it's just not there. As far as your question about why people don't like socializing, there is a lot of buzz in this chat. And thank you guys for being vulnerable with this, because a lot of people are saying the awkwardness and the fear of saying something awkward. They're anxious that people won't like them. A lot of awkward seems to be a recurring word here. Let's see. Okay, somebody says, I don't like a dominating person who takes hostage of the conversations. And I'll tell you, that's a fear of mine, because I don't like quiet. And if I'm scared that the other person won't like to talk, I continue talking until someone shuts me down. And I don't mind someone to shut me down. But so I tend to be that person every once in a while. And that's somewhere where I can grow. Okay. Keisha says gracefully ending when I feel it's over and I am done. That's a great idea. Maybe anybody in the chat have some tips for that, just for everybody else? Well, how do you end a conversation when you're done?
Hold on to those, because that's
hold on to them.
Yep, hold on to them. That's because we're gonna talk about that, because that's one of my areas of enrichment. So some strategies So for those of you that said, okay, hey, I don't like socializing, it is not my thing. I want to talk about, okay, what are some strategies? What are some things that you could do to overcome this particular challenge? And I want you guys to drop your answers in chat as well if you have some great tips. But some of the things that we identified in regards to that is, okay, how, you know how Nathan said, Nathan, you said, what do you do to start to charge yourself, getting ready to go and networking?
I'll play my favorite song. I'll do a favorite activity, just something that I like to kind of get me in the mood. It could be listen to my favorite song on the way there, a favorite album.
Mhm.
But it's like once I'm there, once I have that time to myself to clear my mind, and it really helps me go into the conversation and network.
Yeah, right. And something else you can do is outlining those positives. Because, you know, first thing that we do is we go to the negatives and why we don't want to socialize. But if we identify the positives of socializing, that'll help us maybe get in the mood. And, you know, another one is if you don't like socializing, go with that buddy. You know, Tara already knows now that she's going to be my buddy. I used to have a buddy, but she left and she didn't mind socializing. So wherever she would go, I would go, just like that My Buddy song. Wherever I go, she goes. That's me. I was the My Buddy. So when she would introduce herself, here I would come. Hi, my name is Kimberly. And then they would start having that conversation. And then I would go and, you know, just insert myself in the conversation and talk about it. So those buddies, they really make it easy if you don't like socializing. So it's something that a move that I've been using for years.
Mm-hmm.
Tara, what about you? What are some strategies you think that could help someone that doesn't like to socialize?
I'm actually going to piggyback off the chat per se, because there's some good ideas in here. So Mariah says, take small steps. So if you're networking by attending a function, make a goal for yourself to meet at least one new person so that it's not so overwhelming. Start with small goals. Something Diana shared, to overcome network challenges, learn how to adapt your style. So maybe take some time to figure out your style, what's comfortable for you, and then work to adapt it in a way that will help you become more confident. You don't have to go all the way to my level, but something that's going to be comfortable and match a style that you are okay with. Mm-hmm. Danielle says she pep talks herself. So she makes notes about whatever the event or topic is, thinks of conversation starters ahead of time, and reminds herself that if she gets too anxious, it's okay to be quiet for a while. Give some time to get back together. And those are some great ideas. Go in with a plan. If you need to make some, come up with conversation starters or icebreakers before you are in that scenario, go right ahead. Even if it sounds a little scripted to you, it's better than feeling awkward and unprepared.
You know, you guys are talking about conversation starters right now, and it leads us right into, okay, what if I don't know how to start the conversation? So I want you to share with me, what is your conversation starter? What's your go-to to start that conversation? Nathan, do you have a conversation starter?
I don't, because I'm a man of very few words, but I do know that I kind of feel the room. Like I'll go where the energy feels, or the people feel the most welcoming, and that's where I'll stay. That's where I'll say, hey, how are you? Or hi, I'm Nathan. I'll introduce myself if the energy is there. Mm-hmm. What about you?
You might as well call me Weather Woman Broussard, because my go-to is the weather. If you've ever met me for the first time, I'm sure you've heard me talk. How does it feel outside? You like the weather? Do you like the cold? Is it too hot for you? Like I am, if I'm not telling you about the weather, that's my go-to. And you know, I need to think of something else to initiate that conversation, but that's my go-to, is definitely the weather. Tara, do you have a go-to conversation starter?
I really don't. I try to pull from either the time of the year that I'm in. You know, at the beginning, we were talking about Thanksgiving a lot. So I try to, if that's where we're at in the year, we'll talk about the holidays or something in regards to the season. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not actually the best at conversation starters. So I don't have a plan for those. So would love to hear from everyone, even though I can talk about anything forever. choosing what to talk about can be a struggle sometimes.
Mhm.
Kim, it's funny because Kedra says Louisiana conversation starter, and then in all caps, the weather, LOL. So you are not alone in the weather, and neither am I. I'll tell you, I actually had a class this morning, and my conversation starter was that I didn't know if it was okay to turn my heater on yet or not. So that's a good one. Let's see. Okay, so Seth says if it's a regional or national conference, says, okay, so is this your first time in the location? He likes travel and can talk about that all day. So maybe finding some common ground there. Chris, a great idea for all of us on this call. We all work for the state. So Chris says at state events, always ask what agency they work for or what their job specialty is. Get them feeling like they're interested and really just getting an idea of what they do for the state. I learned something new about Louisiana every day. So that's a great conversation starter.
Mhm. I think some other strategies to help you is not only to have that conversation starter, but to make sure that whenever you walk into a room that you act confident. And, another strategy is finding a group. But I remember, Nathan, you were like, a group,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
Yeah, I find that I do better with two people max, but I network solo and I make better connections just having solo conversations with people.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I love solo conversation.
And that's okay. It goes back to I don't remember who said this in chat, but when they talked about just finding one person, making that small goals, having that one-on-one conversation. And with me, see, I don't mind group or one-on-one. To me, it's better for me with a group because everybody gets to participate and it's not solely on me and that person to exchange. So I don't mind the group setting. To me, it's I guess I do prefer having, to talk to a group versus that one-on-one, because to me, it's all that pressure on me to try to continue the conversation. And if they start talking, it's easier for me to exit versus with, that one-on-one conversation. Tara, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer group or you prefer that one-on-one?
Honestly, both. I think I am comfortable either way. I think definitely if I've been networking all day or, for an extended period of time, groups are easier because like you said, it's not all on you for that conversation and it's not all on the other person either. It can be balanced a little more.
Right.
So I think both probably depending on what the scenario is. I'm noticing a lot of us are talking about conferences, but what about just at work or just in a work related place that you're not as normal? Maybe you're headed to a meeting or a statewide meeting, right?
Right.
Something Diana said is ask what they hope to take away from the event or the meeting, or at least you can assess your surroundings and then think about what you'll say, but make sure to listen to their responses. And Michael says, starts with why they're approaching. I saw this, I heard this, I wonder this. So, make sure that, you have something to say. That's pretty cool.
Right. Another challenge is some people just not liking small talk. So I want to ask you, Nathan, as well as everyone in the audience, what's one thing that you could do to be better at small talk?
What I do is I ask open-ended questions. So like if there's a thought about something, I would say, tell me more, but I try to ask questions just to get as much information as possible. Right. In my conversations.
Right. Because it goes back to what, a lot of people said in the comment in regards to, people like having that conversation and talking about themselves. So asking those open-ended questions will, you'll learn a lot about that person by asking those open-ended questions. What about you, Tara? What's one thing that works for you in regards to small talk?
Really, it's usually my small talk starts a little bit awkwardly, but as soon as I find something that piques my interest that I can tell we relate to, then it is, full steam ahead. Everything is going great. I like to go off on tangents. And so if I find a tangent that will open the conversation more, I stick to that. If I find out that somebody else likes the same football team as me or is in a rival team, we will talk about that till the day's end. At least that's what works for me.
Yeah. Finding that common interest. It goes a long way.
Sure does.
Something else that, we identified in regards to challenges, and it's one of my favorite, is knowing when to exit a conversation, knowing when it has ended. And I say that, I struggle with this is because, when you have that awkward silence and you don't know what to do and you're just looking at each other, and then it's the elephant in the room. Something that is I struggle with is people like to ignore the elephant, and I'll shine light on the elephant. I'm like, hey, elephant, I'm like, it's silence, and I'm like, all right, well, this is awkward. I'll actually say that in a conversation. Well, this is awkward. I mean, it's the dreaded silence. And so I have to make more of a smooth exit. So Nathan, what is something that you do? What's your strategy for exiting a conversation?
So I try to give like social cues when I'm like ready to go, but not everybody reads social cues. So I'm stuck there having a conversation, and even I'll try to walk away and then it'll continue. So I struggle there as well. So if anybody wants to share, please help me out, me and Kim out.
Right. For someone who's shining the light on the elephant.
Right.
What do you have, Tara?
Let me help you out here a little bit. Something that I've learned that Southern women like to do. Let me let you keep that conversation in your brain. So let me let you go. Let me let you get back to work. You kind of turn the situation, you're initiating your exit by saying, this is almost over, but by doing it in a way that sounds like you're doing it for their benefit. And honestly, you probably are. A lot of times when you're ready to exit a conversation, so is the other person. And so keeping that in mind that, hey, they might be ready too. By the time you both leave, you might both be sighing a sigh of relief. So a statement that I have learned is, let me let you. I'll let you get back to that. And then, whatever the situation, I'll let you get around to meeting other people, or I'll let you get back to work. I'll let you finish that project you were working on, whatever the situation. And some funny ones in the chat, but also some good ones. The exit of conversation is to share contact information. So if you don't already have their contact, that's a great way. Let's get our contact info so we can keep in touch. That's a great start to the end. I don't know what else you would talk about after that. Kedra says fake a phone call.
I think if I would try that with my luck, my phone would start ringing while it's on my ear. And they would be looking at me like, well, this is awkward.
Luanda says that's good. We will catch up later. That's a perfectly acceptable way to do that in a clear, concise way, and it's not offensive.
Right.
A few people are sharing humor is a good one. Regina, simple. Well, it was nice talking to you.
Yeah. You see, I like that, the let me let you, and the, let's share contact information so we can keep in touch. That's a great closer. It's better than, you want to make sure you don't avoid brushing them off by saying, oh, look, Bob's over there. Let me go talk to Bob.
Yeah, true.
Because what does that say, Nathan, if I said, oh, look, Bob over there. Let me go talk to
Bob
Bob.
Is more important. You're more interested in Bob.
Right. Bob is more important. And I think, be willing to, when there is that awkward silence, that's when you can insert that, hey, let me get that contact information, and be willing to end that conversation. So these are some really good strategies. I'm actually going to try that. And push come to shove, I'll do the plan B with the fake phone call and let y'all know how it works out.
Right.
Another idea, or a question really for those of you. Christy asks, so my idea of yelling fire is not a good one.
No idea is a bad idea, Christy, but I just think that, it might, make someone else panic as well. Oh, and I see they said it is illegal.
Oh no, I didn't know it was illegal.
So now that we have all these networking strategies and tools underneath our belt, we know how to overcome, um, you know, um, we know how to overcome those challenges and what we fear about um, networking. What are some good places for us to go ahead and practice these networking skills that we've developed? Where do you practice it, Nathan?
Something for me that helped me was the Meetup app. I found a few years ago, I made a promise to kind of get out of my shell and make those connections. I joined Toastmasters. I met people from there. Just Meetup helps a lot too, but because you can go to local events, real estate meetings, whatever you're interested in, and you could find people and talk to them there, and that really helps.
Mm, okay. All right. Again, some networking places. You heard me talked about it. That's my go-to place is LinkedIn. And I do need to get out there more. But what Tara said in regards to thinking about, work is another good place. Especially in our building where we have so many different departments. So Tara, what are some places that you practice your networking?
Really, haven't been in the last few years. Basically, I saw in the comments earlier, quite a few people were saying that COVID created introverts out of extroverts, and it's been a good time for the introverts. So I'm working my way back into finding those places to practice networking. Somebody in the chat mentioned that if you go to church is a great place. Any professional organizations that you may want to attend. For me, I am going back to school. I am going for a graduate degree. So school is going to be a place to practice for me.
Yes.
And Timothy just says, anywhere you're present with people, maybe you're at a grocery store, wherever there are people around. Angela says volunteering. That's a great idea. Yeah. Volunteer for something you're passionate about. I'm sure you'll find tons of people to network with there.
And everything that you guys identified is what we identified, volunteering, social media groups, professional organizations, those conferences, training, anywhere. And just like everybody says, anywhere where you see people, those are all networking opportunities. I see Claire said Toastmasters. Nathan, isn't that your group?
I heard about the DOTD one. I did hear about it.
Okay. Well, those are all some great ideas for you to go ahead and practice those strategies. So Nathan, any final thoughts, any closing thoughts for those out there that, are about to adventure into networking land?
Yeah, I want to thank our participants for sharing because, they helped us with procrastination. They helped us with creating a positive workplace and even networking. So I just want to genuinely thank you guys because you shared great information. And also something that I realized is that most of us all have the same thoughts when it comes to networking. So next time we are in a situation where we have to network, let's just think about it. Like this person is probably having the exact feelings as me. And let me just be myself, be my authentic self.
Right. And I love the strategies. As a matter of fact, I can't wait to try the exiting strategy on,
Yes.
Sharing that contact information and start off small, you do it within your circle of friends. And, I think that this has helped me identify where my fear of networking and doing a little internal assessment, figuring out why I was fearful of it. And now that I know, I can eliminate that fear. And so I think it's just practice. It's not going to happen overnight. It's just something that you continuously do and get better at. Tara, what do you have in chat?
Another great one. They're agreeing volunteering is a great place to try networking. Claire's sharing some info on Toastmasters, hopefully. And people are asking for contact information. So we've got a little bit of network information or networking happening in the chat right now.
Oh, look at you guys practicing your first networking here in chat. This was amazing. And I hope that you can go back and at least do one strategy to help you, get better at this. So with that being said, you guys, this is our last one for the year, and I'm
Mhm.
so sad, but it'll give you guys a break from listening to me, Tara, and Nathan talk. So congratulations on your Kim-cation, your Nathan-cation, and your Tara-cation, okay? And I just want to let you know we have some great news about 2022. So I want you guys just to stay tuned and be on the lookout for some information, because we have some exciting new changes that are going to happen to Success Series in 2022. And so I'm excited to share that with you, and I can't wait when we can. Also, look us up on LinkedIn, Tara and Nathan and myself. We would love to connect. It's all about networking on this episode today. So there's going to be a handout, and I want you to be on the lookout for it, okay? So we're gonna cover everything that we've covered on Success Series. And you're gonna find this handout on our talent development page under Success Series webinars. What you're gonna do is you're gonna click on it, and it's gonna bring up all the handouts that we've done on our past webinars, as well as the one today, all right? Also, you can find our past webinars on our YouTube page just by searching Louisiana State Civil Service. And if you don't have access to YouTube, there's no escaping us, okay? You can find us on Leo. What you're gonna do is in the search field, you're gonna type in webinar, and you'll be able to pull up all of the webinars that you need, including this one. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you guys. And Nathan and I and Tara are so excited that we've created this little bitty Success Series community, and we hope that you join us in 2022.
Yes.
And while you are enjoying everything all the food that you identified in the chat, I want you guys to, just because we're on a little break, I don't want you to forget to keep on learning. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.